I'm not sure if you can answer this, but do you know how many shots were fired by him and how many shots he could have fired, what he was capable of doing?
Well, the best, I can't give you the exact number, but it was well over 1,000 from the room, and he had access to, I believe it was over 4,000 more rounds. So he had the ability to do a lot more harm. So.
And probably intended to do that. That's what he wanted to do, use it all.
Well, you know, why would he have brought it to the room to just stack it up and look at? So I think it's important for people to understand that that because of our actions, and not just because he committed suicide, that all this stopped. I honestly believe that he believed the wolf was at the door, being us, LV and PD, and that's when he made that decision to take his life. But outside of that, if he had continued to shoot, we would have made entry on that door and engaged the suspect.
A lot of conspiracy theories. It never seems to end. They're still being generated about what was really going on. Somebody was shooting from a helicopter, multiple shooters at other hotels. It was ISIS, it was Antifa. He was targeting this event because the country music fans are pro-Trump. I mean, you're not really a social media guy, from what I know about you. Are you amazed by the level of crazy stuff that pops up?
Yeah, it is. I'm amazed at people's ability to cause this kind of disturbance. Amazed at people's mental state to post the stuff that they post. I'm just amazed at the conspiracy theories associated with this, you know, and it's unfortunate. I think the internet is awesome. It's helped us. I think it's probably the most important tool in investigating in law enforcement in today's time, but it also has a negative effect. And these conspiracy theories and thinking that we're trying to hide stuff or we're conspiring together to hide stuff is ridiculous. Yes, you know, we're expected to chase down all these ghosts, like you described, and dispel these theories. Some of them need to be investigated. Some of them need to be put to bed. Some to ensure that we don't have another shooter or there was not a shooting anywhere else. But that's a normal part of an investigation. We can't spend our time chasing our tail with stories on the internet.
The cruelest conspiracy theories are the ones that popped up immediately, that always pop up in these mass shooting incidents. It's a false flag. It didn't really happen. These are actors pretending to be dead people. And then we saw a report a few days ago that some of the people who survived, who were injured, wounded, are getting death threats for perpetuating this hoax. Right. It's outrageous.
Yeah, it is outrageous that somebody would even present that. You know, I've told some people, you know, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I wish I could locate some of these individuals or have them present themselves to me personally, and I'll show them what happened out there, because it's terrible, because there's groups that follow each other. You know, you present this, and then you have people that believe it, and then they all gang up, and then it's all a conspiracy. It's troublesome that you have to deal with that kind of people in society.
ISIS puts out a statement right after it happens. Oh yeah, he's one of our guys, fueling the fire. It just seems to be they were taking advantage of the moment. There is no ISIS connection, is there?
We have not found one. We haven't found any radicalization of the suspect. No affiliation with any terrorist organization, so none of that has been proven.
No political beliefs of any kind really identifiable at all?
No, the only thing that we're aware of, he did make a statement, and I don't know who it was too, that he was happy with Trump because the stock market was doing well. But that's the only thing that we have seen anything reference politics.
Any religious beliefs? I know, you know, the girlfriend is from the Philippines, a Muslim country. People were wondering if that was the connection.
Yeah, whether she was radicalized and eventually radicalized him, or whether he made a trip out there and went through some training or indoctrination, but none of that's been proven.
Some of the conspiracy theories deal with you. And you're in league with the MGM. We got a clip from one of the news conferences where you testily responded to that. We can play that video.
There is no conspiracy between the FBI between LVMPD and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything.
I think by that point you were getting a little bit fed up with those news conferences.
Yeah, it's and I stand by exactly what I said there. That isn't something that was said without knowledge. That was based on knowledge at that point, and still, I'll say the exact same thing. There is no conspiracy out there for us to conceal anything, to hide anything. You know, people are frustrated, George. People are frustrated. Hey, what is the reason why? And just like I am, I'm frustrated too. What is the reason why? Why would this individual take it upon himself to cause the worst mass shooting in our lifetime without reason or cause or understanding? And we haven't gotten that answer yet. So like I told you earlier, I hope they do find something in the autopsy that would cause some sort of trigger point. But you know, there's still some investigating to be done. We're not done with the investigation by any means. We've come a long ways since October 1 in the investigation. There's some more information that the public will be privy to at a later date. But the answer to the trigger point, we still don't have it.
One of the conspiracy points being raised about you is that you were in league with MGM because they bankrolled your campaign, which anybody who covers local politics would know how inaccurate that might be.
Yeah, that is inaccurate. The MGM, nor did anybody, any casino industry bankroll my campaign. There are donations associated with the casino industry in my previous campaign, but the MGM was absent during that time. So I guess that's the best way to say that.
MGM did not donate.
No, they supported the individual that ran against me, and but that doesn't cause me to all of a sudden get together with the FBI and say, hey, let's do a conspiracy against the MGM because of that. That's ridiculous. They're still our community partners. They have, you know, 35, 40,000 employees that live in our community, and it's my job to provide them safety. And so that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Jesus Campos has been through a lot, not only being shot, but he's been inundated by media folks showing up at his house, banging on the door, and he decided to withdraw, to make himself unavailable. That has spawned its own series of conspiracy theories. Can you address that?
I think if I was Jesus Campos, I would have done the exact same thing. He's doing his job. He did everything that he was supposed to do, and he's getting hounded for it. And some people embrace celebrity. Most of us don't. And in this case, he's made the decision to sequester himself with the assistance of the MGM, and I think that's understandable. So no, there's no conspiracy. Nobody has swept him away, you know, to hide him. None of that is occurring. It's just that he respects his privacy, and I think everybody else should.
I mean, he didn't know what he was getting into when he went up there.
No.
But he did save lives. I mean,
yeah, he did. It's unfortunate. I mean, actually, you can look at it both ways. It was unfortunate he encountered the suspect, but it was fortunate he encountered the suspect because it enabled us to locate him a lot quicker. So you can look at it both ways.
The suspect's hard drive was missing, I guess, from the computer that was in the room?
Yeah, one of them in the room.
What do you make of that, then?
We don't know when it was removed. A lot of theories out there, conspiracy, whatever it was, it has all the evidence associated with that trigger point we're looking for or the reasons why. We don't know that. We don't know when it was removed. It was not, the hard drive was not located in the room, but we may never know where that hard drive is. It could have been removed years ago. It could have been removed in close proximity of the shooting. It could have been removed while he was in the room. We don't know that, but it was not available.
Could you assess the state of the investigation regarding electronic evidence? I mean, there's security cameras all over the place. We hear it every day. Why hasn't the security camera video been released, you know, from private Mandalay Bay cameras?
Which security camera?
There are security cameras in the casino that would track his movements in the days leading up to this event. Was he meeting with any other people? Is all that
We
stuff?
have all that.
Yeah,
we have all that, and it's all been evaluated.
You don't release it because you're still investigating.
I mean, could you imagine the terabytes of information we received, you know, trying to track down this individual's life? So that takes some time. But I would say I'd be comfortable giving you a percentage. Approximately 90 to 95% of it is done. So we're still evaluating, like I said, and it's still an ongoing investigation. And I had said earlier publicly, and I'll stand by it, that he wasn't seen in the presence of another individual. There was stories out there that there was a blonde lady, and then there may have been somebody else helping him, and you know that we had a whole bunch of different theories or people that were sided with him, and none of that has been proven true in our evaluation.
Room service for two? That was one of the reports?
Well, there was food on the tray that had the cameras on it. There was more for more than one person, but my understanding, there was never a second person seen or located. So he just liked to eat, probably.
Let's talk about dealing with the media. You know, in the interests of transparency, you hold multiple news conferences over the course of a couple of days. It becomes clear that you're stretched pretty thin. You and everyone around you is stretched pretty thin. At one point, I don't know that you've ever had to deal with a horde like that was shown up there and some of the kinds of questions that were being asked, but we got one exchange that I want to play now.
I appreciate what you're saying, Ken. Ma'am, that's not how we conduct this service, okay? If I'm presented with a question, that's not how I conduct press conferences, ma'am. Please stop asking your question. There's a decorum that we have here, and I will finish Mr. Ritter's question.
Mr. Ritter's question was the same question that she was asking.
Right, but she wanted to be the one that presented it. This is my understanding. She wanted to be the one to present it, so it looked like she broke the news. But Mr. Ritter had the exact same question, and so, and that's one of the people out there that's trying to beat me up on out there in the media world. But it's important. It's ironic, or it's funny that as soon as Mr. Ritter completed his question, I turned to her to listen to her question, and she wasn't there. So this breaking news that we had hidden and then she was able to find out is absolutely false. So
you never really dealt with that kind of a scene before.
No, I didn't. I mean, you know, I really appreciate the local media. I deal with them, you know, several times a year, and we have a pretty good relationship, and people understand through my history and how I like to conduct myself. I'm very transparent. And I'll get to the question when presented, and I think there is a certain decorum that needs to take place. People yelling on top of other people is unacceptable. So.
For a story this big, you've kept a pretty good lid on it in terms of leaks and information that gets out that's not supposed to. I mean, you shared a lot of stuff in these news conferences and others of your administration, but you've kept the leaks to a minimum, except for these photos that came out of the crime scene. What happened with that?
Right. Well, we're still going through that investigation, and you're right. I was actually surprised because, you know, during a critical incident of this magnitude, I get reached out to, and I reach out to people. You know, people reach out to me in support and advice and information, and when the people I'm talking about are other police chiefs. And one of the statements presented to me was they were surprised how little information has gotten out. And I was the opposite. I was surprised how much had gotten out, and I was frustrated by that. But I said publicly that there would be an investigation done associated with that, because I think it's inappropriate that, you know, in the early throes of this, that evidentiary photos get out to the public space that could, you know, either hinder the investigation or slow it down, or cause people to be harmed as a result of it. But so there's a thorough investigation being conducted internally, both with us and with the FBI.
You have not identified who did it yet?
No, we may never. You know how that is. It gets pushed to 50 different peoples at different points, and you don't know. You don't know how it happens. But at this point, we haven't been able to determine.
The personal side of this, where you were when you got the call, and who called you?
I was at the Venetian having dinner with some guests from out of town. My phone started going off, And I thought usually when it does go off like that, it's usually some critical incident like an officer-involved shooting. But when I went to address my phone, Bill Young, former sheriff, was calling me, and I answered his call, and it was close proximity to the other calls. And he had been contacted by his daughter who was attending the event and was seeing if I had any information that would help him locate his daughter. And I obviously couldn't convey the information to him because I didn't know it, so I immediately started making all the calls and responding to the scene in close proximity to that.
You go to the scene, describe what you see.
Well, it's chaos. It's obviously chaos, and I'm listening to the radio traffic. I'm ensuring that what we as a police agency are supposed to do, or we are doing it. And if is it because of lack of resources, it's my job to get the individuals on the ground the resources in order to get the job done. And that was being done. The radio traffic is obviously chaotic, you know, but what I could see was my folks were evacuating the attendees of the concert. I was listening to the command structure being set up, and the individuals associated with that command structure were being identified and put in place. And so I became aware at that point that some of my officers had been injured, and I thought it important for me to go to the hospital to see their status. Additionally, now keep in mind, by the time I get there, there's not an active shooter. Now it's a point of rendering aid and getting resources to bear to help with the injured individual. So I engaged in a conversation with the undersheriff. He's making his way over to the scene also, and then I dispatched or redirected myself to the hospital. Chaos at the hospital. I would have been no help there. But where I could be helped is back at the headquarters with the command center that was being stood up in order to get all the resources we needed to get the injured and ensure there was no other shooter. The investigation, start the investigation and get to everything to where it should be.
As you're at the site of the shooting, did you see evidence of the carnage? Did you?
Yeah, I saw individuals that had lost their life. I saw individuals being ushered out of the venue to get to safety. I saw our officers giving direction. I saw, private citizens giving direction and attempting to help people with medical issues. I saw triage. I saw avenues being open for medical vehicles to ingress, egress, emergency vehicles to ingress, egress, just like you would train and just like you would expect people to do, and that's exactly what was happening.
You've been at this a long time, you've trained for this, but I mean, I can imagine that those images stay with you.
Oh, they do, and that's the important piece, George, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's not about me, it's about the community and it's about the public safety individuals that were engaged in that incident. What are the short-term and long-term effects of that? And it's important for us to have all the resources to bear for the public, to have the ability to reach out, and then it also has the ability for my officers to reach out, along with the firefighters, and along with the medical personnel. Everybody's got to have those resources to ensure that you deal with any long-term effects.
How much did you sleep that week?
None. I can honestly say I probably got about 2 hours in a week. And that wasn't because I didn't have the ability to, I have people helping me or delegating. It wasn't because I was trying to bear the world on my shoulders. It's just, you're dealing with it. Things are running through your mind and you want to ensure that you're getting everything done that you possibly could.
I know for us, we're all covering it, scrambling around trying to get the story. We're not on the scene as you and your officers were. But it was almost surreal, and it went on for days. Then the president comes in the middle of this thing, and the investigation is underway, and there's news breaking every day as new information is learned. It was like it was a movie or happening somewhere else, and it was the delayed reaction. It was for me. It was like 5 days later when it hit me. Is that how it was for you?
Yeah, I agree with your description for you. It was the same for me, and fortunately, minus all the unfortunate event that took place is we believe we didn't have an outstanding suspect. The main suspect involved took his own life. So we weren't out searching. It wasn't a manhunt per se. Granted, we were doing everything possible to identify any other players, and so you have that haste or that priority associated with it. But as far as somebody shooting up the place and went and hid, and we knew there was somebody else that went and hid, that wasn't taking place. But you said it earlier, and I believe the number today is right around 564 injured. We have to deal with all that. And then obviously the 58 individuals that lost their lives and the families. And, you know, and let's not forget, I had one of my officers that was attempting to save lives during the concert and lost his life. And, you know, I had that officer's funeral to deal with. So there's a lot of different things that you have to manage. And I think it's important as a leader of an agency that you rely on your people to help you with that. And they did a fantastic job.
There's a moment. There's a very human moment that happened at a news conference, and I'm not sure how you're going to react to seeing it again now, but we're going to play it. And
do you have to? Samuel Whitwer. Excuse me for my emotion. So at this point, I want to thank the community. I want to thank you for letting me be your sheriff in Vegas Strong.
So it catches up to you right about that point.
I love that picture of Brady.
Yeah.
So
your guys had said, "Hey, we want to come back to work."
Right. You know, we obviously have people that are not working as a result of the event, but the majority of our workforce is standing strong, and they wanted to go right back to work, even the ones that are injured. I talked about Brady Cook, you know. So there's a lot of individuals like that. They want to go back to work and do what they were hired to do. So I think it's important for people to realize that. So.
You know, an event like this, you've been involved in some big stuff before. That whole Bunty scenario,
right.
You were out there on that, and that could have gone sideways at any moment. It could have gone bad, but this thing leaves a scar. It leaves a scar on the city and the community and your officers and on you.
Yeah, you know, right at the end of that thing, you know, it's Vegas Strong. That's what's amazed me in this whole thing, George, is Vegas is stepped to the plate. Granted, you know, we are a tourist-driven economy, but I think let's remove ourselves from that and talk about the community, you know, how they've stood to the plate and they want to help in every way possible, and how we've come together as a community during a tragic event. It'd be very easy for people to say, you know, this is a big mess, and to start to place blame on 100 different people associated with it, but they haven't. They come together, and they say it's important for us to come together as a community to show that resiliency. And I think it's important for you to broadcast that. I think it's outstanding how we came together as a community.
You know, you're the sheriff. You're the top law enforcement professional in the state, and you're on television a lot. People see you and know you. Does this change how you are perceived? I asked the question in this context as I was out. I saw you at somewhere outside of work a week ago, and people are coming up and shaking your hand and patting you on the back and, "Hey, Sheriff, how you doing?" And it seems like something changed.
Yeah, I think you know, it's I guess it's the power of the media. You know, you get out there and then people start to recognize you. But you know what's really changed is people thanking me and my police officers. You know, I said, hey, unfortunately, I'm the face out there. But it wasn't just me that did it. It was everybody associated with my police department, everybody associated with the rest of public safety and the medical community. But they're showing their appreciation for what we did. Like I said, I think we saved thousands of lives by our actions and how we handled it after the fact, how we ensured that people got medical aid, and how we've done follow-up with individuals, ensure they're getting all the resources they need, getting their personal property back, and then legal aid being stood up for the people that can't afford it, and everything that goes along in the short and long term of a critical incident. It's amazing how the communities come together. As far as me personally, I would never use the word celebrity, and I can't stand, I just don't want people to use that with me. It's just, I happen to be the face of a tragic event, and I'm happy to be the sheriff, you saw in the video, and I thank the people for giving me that opportunity.
What you and I have spoken about active shooter, terrorist attacks, these kind of scenarios. Metro has planned for this for a long time, and each time there's an incident internationally or nationally, you evaluate it and you learn from it and you try to prepare for it here. What do you learn from this? I mean, this guy found a tiny little niche, a tiny little crease. What do you learn from it? Are you already changing plans and trying to evaluate how to prepare for the next one?
Right, you know, you're absolutely right. You have to check your ego, per se, and you got to say, hey, is there something we can learn from this? And we've started that and immediately after event. Is there something we need to change in the security profile of our community, in the casino industry? So in close proximity to the event, I met with all the corporate security chiefs of the casino industry to start spitballing those ideas. There's a lot of things they can do internally, a lot of things we can do as a police department. So we're working out all those nuances. You know where we creates a problem for us, per se, is we're hospitality. You know, we don't want to intrude on people's hospitality, and that's the business we're in, but the world has changed. It has nothing to do with Las Vegas. It has nothing to do with any other hospitality industry. It's the world has changed, and we have to change along with it. So to inconvenience an individual for security measures, I think it should be acceptable by the general public.
We have a lot of big events here. We have all kinds of big events. I mean, there might be 5, 6, 8 on a given weekend, and a lot of high-rise buildings. Right. How do you stop people from doing this?
Well, that's why it's important. Like, you know, when we went to Mumbai, let's go to New York City and see how they do it. Reference Times Square. You know, do they have this? Excuse me. Do they have the same concerns? Let's reach out to our partners and receive that information. But in the immediate, we have to adjust our profiles because we're not going to stop the economy, and we're not going to not do events. So we have to ensure that people are comfortable when they attend the events, and we have to ensure that we're doing everything possible that we can do. So there's different things. You can do overwatch. You can have quick response forces standing by. There's a lot of different avenues to go. And I want to assure the public that we're already doing them. We're not waiting to evaluate, but in the short term and within our resource ability, we are doing that.
This is not the bad guy that you expected. I mean, you've been preparing for other kinds of bad guys, terrorist organizations. Right. Are they encouraged by something like this? Does it teach them something? That attack could still happen. I mean, you've been saying it for a long time that it...
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately, we have a copycat society when you talk about critical incidents, and but we're going to do everything in our power to prevent that. We pray to God it doesn't ever happen here again, nor anywhere other jurisdiction. It doesn't happen. That we put the systems in place to stop it, and if it does occur, that we're immediate in response to it. So you can what if to the cows come home, George, and it's important for us to try and what if every scenario. And this was a scenario that we hadn't envisioned, and now it's in our repertoire as far as responding to it.
You know, you've been making the argument, your predecessors have been making the argument that the federal government, we're an international date line, we are a target for a variety of reasons. Sometimes that falls on deaf ears. Any progress now that it's happened and saying, hey, we need help here?
Yeah, I would anticipate the help is coming. You know, the government in the short term provided financial help to address the overtime issue, but in the long term, can we target harden our community with the assistance of the federal government? That's been a continual argument with them. We feel that we were a priority target for people that want to cause harm, and so the monetary assistance to bring resources were always questioned. In other words, are we being funded at the appropriate level? So that formula has been discussed. We've been discussing it, and it's ongoing, but I think the priority is going to raise. on the heels of this event.
So the ground has shifted a little bit on that issue.
Yes, and I believe so, and hopefully they're listening to what I'm saying.
The idea of a lone wolf, we've also discussed that. An active shooter, a lone wolf, somebody committed to it who does not mind dying, that threat is going to remain. That's always going to remain.
I believe that'll always remain, and it's probably the most difficult one to prevent, because you don't know what's salient point happened in somebody's life that caused them, or the trigger, or mental disease, or anything. But what we do rely on is the public to help us that, because we can't be everywhere all the time, and it requires the assistance of the public to help us identify these individuals and ensure that we do follow up with that information.
The concern was about the economic engine of the state, the Strip. What would happen if an active shooter situation erupted there? The economy could collapse. The economy didn't collapse.
No. I think it's fantastic. It shows you, the American public, we can't let terrorism win. And granted, this guy hasn't been labeled a terrorist yet. I don't care what you say. I could use that label for this individual. He's dead and gone. But we can't let them win, no matter what the label is. And I think it's important for people to move on with their lives and continue to do what they want to do for us to succeed. Once we start giving in, and that's where they feel they're accomplishing what they want to accomplish.
We saw it on the faces of these national media people who are in town doing stand-ups out there on the Strip night after night, 5 or 6 times a day. And slowly over the course of that week, it dawns on them that Las Vegas is a real community, like they didn't realize we were a real community before. And they're astonished at the reaction. Las Vegas didn't miss a beat. Got up, dusted off, and got to it. The blood donations, the financial donations, offering to help in so many ways. It's astonishing.
Yeah, it is astonishing, and I'm glad you bring that up, because it's important for us to talk about that too. Not just about this individual and the carnage that he caused, but how the community came together, how well entrenched the Las Vegas community has become. And I like to use that word community. We were considered a transient community forever and ever, and now we're considered a real community. It's funny where you still get people, even to me, they say, well, where do you live? Do people actually live in Las Vegas? Yes, people live in Las Vegas. We do a lot more than just go to casinos or run casinos. It's a real community. It's very diverse. And it's evident because a lot of individuals that retire from the police department move in close proximity to retire, and then they all end up back here. And they don't understand how vibrant and robust and enjoyable this community is.
It's a terrible incident. It'll leave permanent scars and certainly has, destroyed a lot of people's lives and families. But there is some good that comes out of it, in terms of our community and how it rose up.
Yeah, you try to see some of the silver lining. It's very difficult in a situation like this, but how we rose up is the silver lining, and how we'll continue is the silver lining, and how we make adjustments because of it is the silver lining. And I think it's important for people to see that outside of Las Vegas. My concern is the people in Las Vegas and their safety, but I think it's also my concern that people outside of Las Vegas understands this is a great community, safe community, and it's a great place to visit.
Anything else you want to say to people about the ongoing investigation or the incident?
Well, I don't want to get lost in the injury numbers. I believe I gave you 564. That is the current number, but out of that 564, 5 individuals are still in the hospital. Out of that 564, there's people going to have lifetime injuries, and then the people that are still in the hospital means they have grave injuries, and it's important for everybody to not lose sight of that and continue to support those individuals and to continue to support your law enforcement and the first responder community.
Have you noticed, I'm sorry, one more, among your officers who dealt with it, who were there on the ground, you have to keep an eye on them. Are they emotional impact, long-term impact?
Yeah, obviously you do. I mean, they know what they signed up for, but they didn't sign up for addressing 58 dead individuals and 500 plus injured people at a music venue. Nobody can prepare for that, and nobody can understand the long-term effects of that. So it's important for me, especially as the head of the agency, to bring the resources to continue to help them, to keep our eyes on them, and give them all the opportunity to succeed, and not to sequester themselves and deal with it through other means like alcohol or things like that. So I think it's important for people to understand that. It's going to take us a long time to heal in the public safety community, but as far as the community of Las Vegas, we're moving forward.
Thanks, Sheriff.